Going on YouTube, Cloverwell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to do a little bit of a meta analysis because again we're getting closer to the World Championships, and anytime we can find any sort of big tournament or some niche Pokemon that is just taking the meta by storm, we're going to cover it. And this is one of those tournaments where, yeah, I think we should talk about it. You know, it's not a regional, of course, but at the end of the day, almost 300 players. All right, so VictoryRoad had this little tournament over this past weekend where they're calling it the Road to Honolulu, right? Because winners would get awarded some prize money, which you can see here, and this is going to pay for their trip, or at least help pay for the trip to the World Championships, obviously, because it's a hefty sum. So this is a nice thing that they got to do. And it helps us, just as a viewer, because, we're on the outside looking in, and we get to look at just where exactly are we in the meta right now, at this point in July. Again, no regionals right now, no big tournaments, but this was, that first really big one, besides an online limitless tour, of course, that we can see just where exactly, things are being used, where, certain restricteds are in terms of their development, right? Because again, almost 200 players, that's a lot. That's almost like a regional. So at the same time, we get to see just where other things have fallen, if they have fallen, or if people are trying some interesting niche options, which we want to spotlight as well, because that's going to be important as we go into more team building ideas heading into August, which of course is the month of the World Championships. All right, so we're going to look at usage data. We're obviously going to look at the winning team. We're going to look at, top 8 cut, top 16 day 2 stuff, of course, and just see where exactly, people's minds are in terms of the meta right now. All right, so let's go ahead and get to it. All right, so let's look at restricted usage stats. So, of course, Calyrex-Shadow Rider at number 1. You can see also the conversion data from, day 1 into day 2. So, Calyrex-Shadow Rider at 29.6%, then, 41% into day 2. That's very, very high. That's very good. 12% increase, so that's nice. Then, the Ice Rider also seeing a bump there from day 1 into day 2, 15 to 18%. Again, to me, there's no argument that these two are the best. And then Miraidon at number 3. I feel like Miraidon sometimes can make a little flip into the second slot here, but Miraidon's conversion is also very solid. Again, from day 1, just under 15% into 21% in day 2. So that's also pretty interesting. That's even more than the Ice Rider for that matter. And then Kyogre, believe it or not, now as the 4th best restricted, in terms of usage, I would say. I wouldn't say like, in general, but, at least for this tournament, usage state, 10.8% going up to 13. Again, good conversion. And then over here, everything else, just from the others like Koraidon, Zamazenta, Lunala, these are still like very solid restricteds, but, sometimes they get a little tricky to use, I would say. Like they're good, but they're not as good as these guys, right? But I think the most alarming thing is that Terapagos, again, from 7.9% day 1 usage all the way to 0% usage in day 2. So not a single Terapagos made it into day 2. And if you don't believe me, let's take a look at the teams. So, here's obviously going from first place. We'll talk about the winning team in a second, but look at this. You can see, like, from 1 down through, 16 here, no Terapagos, right? And then if you just keep going down, day 2 Swiss, same thing. Like, there is not a single Terapagos team. Like, even Zacian made day 2, right? Not to say that Zacian's a bad restricted, but, if you told me at some point in regulationG that Terapagos would not make day 2 and Zacian did, I would have been a little bit more confused as to if he did make that statement there, right? But again, no day 2 Terapagos. So then the question is why? Why not? I can come up with a few reasons, but I think the main thing is that, there's a lot of teams have a fighting type now, okay? And then that means we're going down here into overall usage. Guess who's back, within the top 12 is actually within the top 6. So now look at overall usage. All right, and I'm going to type it out here. You probably already guessed it, but Iron Hands is back in the meta, all right? It took a while for Iron Hands to get going, but finally it is now back to being a top used mon. And, without a doubt, again, just 140 base attack, with this high of an HP and great defensive bulk, okay? And then, of course, with the Sulfess, just makes it even more bulkier against special attackers. Terapagos is going to struggle against this thing. It just drain punches it. You can't Tera out of your fighting weakness So, you know, Iron Hands is going to win the 1v1 in due time. Okay, because every time Terapagos gets chipped, Iron Hands recovers health. You're taking super effective damage. And then Iron Hands has an Assault Vest against something like an Earth Power if you indeed have that. So Iron Hands is good. And then just other fighting types are you know, strong. Like Urshifu also, you know, whether it's the Dark or the Water one, is still at a very, very strong, very high usage mon. Like if you just look at the stats here, like it's number 1, right? 62% day 2 usage, right? And as a Terapagos playing, you know, Terapagos player, I should say, you're always thinking about these fighting types that you have to go against, and not only the Urshifu, but even something like Mienshao, right? I did notice like quite a few of Mienshao teams. Like here it is, like top 30 monster. You also have to worry about something like a Mienshao coming into play, and then even the Annihilate stuff is also something that you can't sleep on, right? So like all these, you know, fighting types that are within the regulationG meta, that's not good for Terapagos, and it's no surprise. You know, you are surprised, but aren't surprised at the same time that not a single one was able to make it into day 2, right? So that goes to show you that maybe something needs to happen in terms of the building of a Terapagos team, or maybe it was just the variance of the tour itself. Like maybe if we were to do this tour again, right, maybe you might see the Terapagos actually crack the day 2. So, you know, I always tell people, you know, you don't want to panic necessarily just because of the variance of the tournaments that you play in, right? So sometimes it'll do well here, but then in the next tournament it just doesn't do well there, right? You know, and that's not a knock on the Pokemon itself. That's just, you know, variance, you know, the player itself, and then just matchups at that given day. Okay, so now let's look at overall usage data of just the other non-restricted Pokemon. So I won't look at the restricted here, even though it's like overall. So let's look at 1, 2, and 3. Of course, it's going to be Urshifu, Rillaboom, and Incineroar. The Fire, Water, Grass core, without a doubt. You know, the staples are always going to be there. No change there. How about Raging Bolt shooting up all the way to, you know, rank 4 here? Again, Raging Bolt, a very good mon. You know, Thunderclap priority move. That's great against Kyogre. And despite that, Kyogre's still, like, you know, rising up a little bit. And then at the same time, you have this Pokemon to click Thunderclap against the Urshifu, and you need to, right? You know, it's always like a pin against that slot. You know, the Assault Vest Raging Bolts, they have some cool sets, of course. But again, just being able to tank a lot of these special attacks is going to be important. You always have Snarl potential to mitigate special attack damage. You know, you have Electro Web for speed control. And then at the same time, like we said, you have Thunderclap for that priority move. So look at this. You got a priority move, you got a speed control move, you got a damage mitigation move. So, you know, all in all, the Raging Bolt. And then you also have a pivot move. You can also do Volt Switch. So you have different utility depending on how you want to use the Raging Bolt. And, you know, that's not a question as to why it's this high at this point in the meta here. Then at number 5 here, Farigiraf. Okay, so now that brings me to my next point. Look at all the top teams here in terms of Farigiraf usage. Look at this. The first place team had Farigiraf. Then you had the 3rd place team, the 4th place team, the 5th place team, okay, and even the 8th place team. So in the top 8, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Farigirafs, okay, and then if you count Serena, that's 6 Pokemon within the top 8 that deny priority. So that tells me that, you know, blocking priority is a must right now. And of course, you can kind of see that because think about all the Chenpao Sucker Punches, the Grassy Glides, the Aqua Jets, the Thunderclaps, the Fake Outs. Okay, if you have, you know, these Pokemon down here, if you have all this priority Fake Out and all those priority moves in general, you're going to see some high usage if you are able to deny that altogether. So Farigiraf, of course, and then giving you Trick Room is also great for you if you're going to run like some slow stuff. So lots of things have gone right for Farigiraf in regulationG. Then here he is, Iron Hands here at number 6. You know, again, 19.5% use, 23% usage in day 2. That's very good. So nice to see Iron Hands fully back in the meta, right? Then you have Amoonguss here, you know, coming right behind it along with Tornadus. Okay, so again, Prankster, Speed Control, Tornadus is still up there. I'm going to skip these guys. These are restricted. Then you have Grimmsnarl. Okay, now cracking into the top 12. So again, if you just look at your Prankster Pokemon here, you've got Tornadus, you've got Grimmsnarl. Both are, you know, within the top 12 uses. And then the trailer being the Whimsicott over here. And, you know, all 3 can give you different things. Okay, just depending on how you want to run your squad. But Grimmsnarl, along with Iron Hands, let me take these two off the board for a second. I just want to say, like, Grimmsnarl and Iron Hands, or even like Grimmsnarl and Incineroar, okay? Well, you know, just really, really good defensive backbone that you can slap onto your teams and do well with them, right? And we can even like go into maybe like a separate video just talking how these two are very versatile on different archetypes and different teams. But the fact that you can add a fake out user with Grimmsnarl along with damage mitigation, right? Just think about this. Intimidate, you know, with light screen, you know, the Intimidate is almost like Reflect. So you don't have to click it that turn. You can go for your light screen, and then from there you can go into your parting shot, and then this can click, you know, light screen and Reflect next turn. But, you know, once you get your screen set up, your Pokemon are going to stay on the field for longer, which means more damage pressure, you know, comes out here. And Grimmsnarl is just annoying with stuff like Spirit Break, reducing special attack damage, Thunder Wave, of course, the Paralysis hacks, and then, of course, the speed control that it can give you. That's also going to be good. So, you know, you know, on this channel, we love Grimmsnarl. It's one of our mascots on the channel besides the Celesteal, which isn't even in this game for the time being. But Grimmsnarl, nice to see it there. I'm going to say, I'm going to go on the win. Grimmsnarl is going to be on the winning team in the World Championships. You heard it here first. Okay, Grimmsnarl will be on the winning team in the World Championships. That is my bold prediction there, right? Then you've got Fluttermane over here, and then Ogerpon Heartflame, you know, is just right up there. Let me see, is that in within the top 12? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, so right here, here's your top 12, right? Heartflame at number 11, and then Chi-Yu at number 12. So Heartflame has seen a little bit of an increase, especially on those Miraidon teams, which we'll talk about in a second. But, you know, one way to really deal with Miraidon is to not necessarily but weaken it, is to use your Rillaboom, obviously, to change the terrain. But then you have Heartflame. So now that you have a positive matchup into Rillaboom with that, but now you just made the Heartflame stronger by going into your grassy terrain, right? So that's something to make note of. But, of course, Chi-Yu has a ton of pressure into a lot of different things. You know, all these grass types like Rillaboom and Amoonguss, and then Snarl pressure into the Calyrex. Doesn't want to be taking dark moves. Miraidons don't want to be taking that. Terapagos don't want to be taking that. You know, they're forced to run Covert Cloak. And then Miraidon, same thing. Specs or Life Orb is the way at the moment. So once this thing takes a Snarl, not great. Kyogre, same thing. You take a Snarl, not so great for you. Okay, I would say, in my opinion, I think Chi-Yu, besides the defensive cores, I think Chi-Yu is like, you know, one of the best mons you could use on any of your teams. It just gives you so much use into a lot of different matchups against a lot of different Pokemon here. But yeah, and then you have stuff like Pelipper, still high up there, not in the top 12, but 13th is pretty good. Blood Moon, Ursaluna, again, ground normal typing is really good. Anytime that you can have immunity into Miraidon and immunity into the Calyrex-Shadow Rider, you're gonna have some good usage there. So just interesting to know, you know, 31 you know, or 11% day 1 usage, only just 5 into day 2. So that's a little interesting in itself. And then how about the Smeargle conversion, right? Smeargle, you know, with its annoying sets. We're going to talk about that in a second, but Smeargle is also on the rise. You know, you can stop a lot of different Pokemon, you know, just by going for those spores. And the redirection, of course, is annoying as well. And there's your trailer, Whimsicott, of course. And then a select group of niche Pokemon that can make a difference on certain teams, especially in DD. You know, just changing terrain, blocking priority, like we said, is going to be good. Having access to Trick Room. Ndidi also getting some great usage, you know, in regulationG. But anyway, I digress. So now what we're going to do is we are going to look at some of the top teams here. We're going to talk about them, and we'll note some specific sets that we notice on some of these squads. Okay, so let's take a look. All right, let's look at the winning team here. So from Federico Camporesi, also known as FedeCampo, again, $950 first place. So congrats to him. But Calyrex-Ice Rider takes it here. So let's look at his team. All right, so, you know, standard set here with the Clear Amulet and Tera Fire, with Lance, the high horsepower ground move, the Trick Room, the Protect. So that's pretty standard. How about the Farigiraf over here? Your secondary Trick Room setter. And this is the offensive set. This is the Throat Spray, Hyper Voice, Shadow Ball set. So, you know, this is probably Modest Nature. You know, this is the way we like to play it as well. Anytime you have like a Throat Spray Farigiraf, you're going to run Modest Nature just so that you can do some damage. And the idea here is, you know, you're already bulky enough, or, you know, somewhat bulky. Let's put out some offense here with the Throat Spray, spamming Hyper Voice. Stab Hyper Voice is going to be good. And, it's still a triple-digit special attacker, so it's not something that you can ignore. So that makes sense. And besides the Calyrex, you also want that special attacker that can, do some good damage under Trick Room. Raging Bolt also fulfills that role here. Again, Thunderbolt, Draco Meter, Thunderclap with the booster, so it's going to get a boost in that special attack stat, of course. And then, again, like another priority move user besides the Urshifu here. How about Cornerstone and Rillaboom at the same time here? But there's no Grassy Glide, obviously. But look at this. Ivy Cudgel, Horn Leech, Follow Me, Shadow Shield. So Cornerstone has a cool niche here. Again, rock coverage is quite nice. Lots of flying types running around, lots of fire types. So, just having that rock coverage is quite good. That you can utilize in itself. Again, you have another redirector on the team, right? So you've got some speed control, you have the fake out user, you have a redirector, okay? So, nice in itself here. So I like this Calyrex-Ice Rider team. I think it's quite smart in how Federico decided to build it there, especially with the option of the Cornerstone. Don't sleep on the Cornerstone, by the way. It's quite good. But if we look at some of the other Ice Rider teams, because there's two more in top 16. Again, they're also running like Smeargle stuff. So look at this one. Again, standard stuff, but here's the close combat. I believe this is the Audi team. Yeah, it looks like it is. With the Electabuzz, again with Vital Spirit, under Trick Room, as an Amoonguss user, you just gotta spore this thing because you outspeed it. But then you have the Electabuzz here, and that says no, just because you have the Vital Spirit, you're able to redirect the spore stuff, and then of course you've got the Final Gambit, coaching stuff, where you can just nuke something and get rid of it, or you can just boost your Calyrex and go for coaching, and that's always going to be good. And then the Smeargle just makes everything annoying, right? You've got Fake Out, then you have Decorate and Spore, so you can put things to sleep, and while things are sleeping, you can decorate your Calyrex, or decorate the Blood Moon, even, and that's just going to be doing, tons of more extra damage. And then, just like Electabuzz, it's another Follow Me redirector, where you can just set up your Trick Room, and then from there, just be poised to sweep, right? So then after that, this one still used the Smeargle, but it's not the same team. Just typical Fire, Water, Grass stuff with Instant Urshifu and the Urshifu, right? But this is your coaching Pokemon, right? Just like the Annihilate had coaching, the Urshifu is actually the one that has coaching here. And then at the same time, you have a Wide Guard tech on the Smeargle that, we didn't see in the other one, but still good here. And then Raging Bolt still boosts your energy, doing a ton of damage, right? So there's some variants here with the Ice Rider, and then the ones that didn't make the top 16, but are still also in day 2, they still have like good solid Pelipper play. So look at this, right? So Pelipper with the Wide Guard here, making the Urshifu do more damage. The Urshifu Scarf here. Then you have Volcarona, okay? And Volcarona doing Volcarona things. You have Flame Body, and then at the same time, once you have Quiver Dance set up, you can just outspeed the entire format, go for Fiery Dances, go for Giga Drains, and then from there, you're just going to be annoying, right? Because it becomes hard to break if you can just get all these Quiver Dances up, and then, you can cycle your Intimidates and land some Will-O-Wisp, so now you're not even taking physical damage. So basically, Volcarona can just be a nice solid endgame option in this case, right? So I do like that a lot. Then if we look down at this team, this one is just pretty standard. This is like one of the earlier renditions of Calyrex-Ice Rider where you have Pelipper, Urshifu, Raging Bolt, Amoonguss. This is pretty standard there. There's nothing else needs to be said there. And, here's the coaching stuff, right? And then down here, same thing, right? Same kind of 6. So, it just goes to show you, like, it's still quite solid here, just to use the old Pelipper stuff. But then you have the Ditto Iron Hands idea, right? We saw this, in more recent regional play. So, just having the Ditto, being able to copy a potential restricted is sometimes a little bit overwhelming, right? So if you can position the Ditto properly, then that just gives you a free restricted. You can just win games off of that, right? But here's that double Iron Hands Incineroar Amoonguss stuff, right? So, double Fake Out with redirection. Again, helping you set up that Trick Room and having a nice secondary sweeper under Trick Room, with the Calyrex is quite good there. So even if they do Intimidate, you can just Volt Switch out and bring something else in. So I like that a lot. I do like this 6. I think this 6 will go far in the World Championships if someone wants to keep using this 6. But, it just goes to show you, like, even right now in the middle of July, some of the older builds like this, for example, is still working just because it has like 6 really solid good Pokemon. And if you've mastered the positional play, then it's still going to work, even though it was a little bit more of an earlier team that did well. All right, so that's enough of Ice Rider. I think it's, you know, the most consistent restricted, right? It requires a little bit more perfect play, but, you know, at the same time, great base stats, great Pokemon that can just steamroll. The supporting pieces make a lot of sense. So I do expect it to go far in the Worlds. So I want to talk about Kyogre, because Kyogre did pretty decent in this tournament, right? And it's specifically, you know, Kyogre screen stuff. Now, this is not the Justin Tang, Shiliang Tang team, you know, the one with Wo Chien, of course, and the Jolly Ensign. I just think Kyogre screens, besides that team, can do well, just because, you know, Kyogre is already super bulky on the special defense end, right? And then you add an Assault Vest, or maybe even Calm Mind, then you just add, you know, something like Grimmsnarl and Instant just to add Reflect and Intimidate, and then all of a sudden the Kyogre just becomes almost impossible to break just because of this all this bulk, right? So I do think that's going to be the way to play Kyogre moving forward, but there is an interesting set that I want to make note of. All right, first let's look at the second place team here from Marlox over here, okay? Interesting enough, this is a Choice Scarf Kyogre set, okay? And we haven't seen Scarf Ogre since, like, Sword and Shield ladder play, okay? It's been a hot minute since we've seen Scarf Ogre, okay? And now that it had a second place result here, I think more people are going to try and experiment it, okay? And it may not necessarily be this 6, but I just think Scarf Ogre will merit some exploration moving forward, right? Because the fact that you can have Tornadus along with the Scarf Ogre and then just simply outspeed the format, okay, is going to be important, right? So it wins you the mirror, first of all, right? Especially if you have Thunder, so that's going to be cool. But look at this, Water Spout, Hydro Pump, Origin Pulse, 3 Water moves, then you have Ice Beam, of course, for the dragons that are going to be able to resist you. Serena here, so you still have Tornado, Serena, Kyogre as, you know, your core. Serena, again, denying stuff from Rillaboom and Raging Bolt. That's its job here. The same way Ferrograph will do that job on a Kyogre team. Then you have Arkeladon, of course, you know, that, you know, much appreciates the rain. And Arkeladon has found its niche in regulationG, you know, for a while now, that it's just going to be very solid on those Kyogre teams, just going for these electro shots. But it is a safety goggle set, not an Assault Vest set, so no body press stuff from here. It does have the big Steel Beam nuke, so that's interesting to note. And then this is a Terragon Rillaboom, so that's great into stuff like Miraidon. You know, just being able to change terrain and not take electric damage in itself, that's going to be solid, especially with the high horsepower attack that can just one-shot it potentially, right? And here's the Electabuzz, of course, just being able to, you know, do Electabuzz things like we said, redirect Trick Room stuff, Spore against the Kyogre. And then you have the tech with Thunder here in the rain. Okay, so now you're dealing some decent chip damage, so that's going to be cool. But yeah, I do like this team. I think that was pretty creative on Marlox's part, just to put Electabuzz here. I like that. But look at the other Kyogre team. So this one, instead of Serena, has the Ferrograph. You know, this is also kind of how we like to build it. You know, just have Ferrograph here with Kyogre. But look, yet again, you have the Throat Spray set. So looking to be more offensive with this Ferrograph. Then you have Goldango, which always does well under rain, right? Because again, you are a steel type. You take reduced damage against fire attacks. But with Tornadus, again, just clicking Tailwind, Make It Rain is going to be huge. Terra Normal, you know, that's been a thing for Goldango for a bit, just because it'll give you that immunity into Calyrex-Shadow Rider instead of being weak to it from the Astral Barrage. Now you can become a normal type and do well against it. And how about Urshifu here with the Life Orb? Again, of course, Urshifu doing great damage under rain. Now you add the Life Orb. Now you add Terra Grass. You don't care about Amoonguss anymore. And you're just dealing a ton of damage with Surging Strikes, of course, right? So this is another cool Kyogre team. I like this a lot. You have your Tailwind Setter. You have your Trick Room Answer. And then you just have other Pokemon that just do well under the rain in general, right? So I like this team a lot. Then after that, look at this. Now we go into the Kyogre screen stuff. So look at this. This is not just this team, but you do have this core of Kyogre, Grimmsnarl, and Instant, right? And interesting enough, it is a Calm Mind Kyogre here. So, you know, no Water Spout, which means you can miss with Origin Pulse. So if you like that, sure, go for it. But, you know, you can miss 1 or 2 because you are so bulky. You have Fake Out Pressure. So it's not the end of the world. But, of course, you know, you are going to rely on an inaccurate move. But at the same time, listen, if you're going for Calm Minds and you have Light Screen up and you have, Intimidate and double Fake Out, you'll be just fine. And then look at this. You have a Mungus here, so look at this. You have Screens, double Fake Out, Redirection. That's usually how you want to go about a set of Pokemon like this. Like, it could be Terapagos, Calm Mind. It could be, Calm Mind Calyrex or Nasty Plot Calyrex. But this kind of core is very splashable with a restricted slot. Like, I could take out Kyogre here and put in, leftovers Terapagos, like I said. Okay, and it just fits relatively fine. Here's Raging Bolt yet again, doing Raging Bolt things, so that's cool. But then down here, is this the same team? Let's take a look. I'm going to say no. But yeah, all right. It's still Calm Mind, Kyogre, yes. Okay, so, this is, again, another one of those Kyogre teams that, with Grimmsnarl and Incin, can do well, especially if you can support the Calm Mind usage here. Now, this one is a little bit more interesting. You have I like this core, right? This is something that we used on our own Kyogre team, the one that we built for Richard, that he was able to use and get 300 CP for World Championships, right? Kyogre with Urshifu, Chien-Pao, and Amoonguss. Again, Chien-Pao and Ursh, just having so much pressure. Surging Strikes in the rain. Chien-Pao making Urshifu do even more damage. Just makes sense. And then our Calyrex was on that team. And the only difference between this team and our team is this Dragonite slot here, where we had Tornadus. But now we have Powknight as a factor along with Kyogre here. So that's going to be interesting. But again, Terra Normal, pretty cool against the Calyrex. But, Extreme Speed, not going to help you there unless you're forcing the Calyrex to Terra, which, they may well do. But this is a very much a normal Arcaladin set here. But again, just all depends on how you want to play the Ogre. But it's interesting to know, again, like we said, the Scarf Ogre was a thing. And the Calm Mind set was a thing. And you don't see any Assault Vest Kyogres, which is interesting enough. So maybe the Calm Mind or the Scarf may merit more exploration as we move forward and get closer to the World Championships. We'll have to wait and see. And now we're going to take a look at the Miraidon teams here. And the interesting tech that is surging right now was an older exploration, before the format even started, was this Tera Fairy idea behind Miraidon, along with a fairy move like Dazzling Gleam here. So you're at the choice specs, okay? Now we're doing a ton of damage with Dazzling Gleam. Now here's the idea behind Tera Fairy. You can beat the mirror this way, right? Just because your Dragon and Electric moves are not going to do anything against another Miraidon. So you can win the mirror by just going Tera Fairy and having Dazzling Gleam as an option into it. And then at the same time, something like Iron Hands, another Iron Hands that can also do well against the Miraidon matchup, especially if they have the Ice Punch tech. But now, you can beat the Iron Hands, especially, right? If you go Tera Fairy, now you can just blast this thing, with Tera Fairy, Dazzling Gleam, and it doesn't want to take that. I don't care if you have an Assault Vest or not. It's going to hurt, okay? It's going to hurt a lot, and that's another thing, right? And then at the same time, if things want to click Draco Meteor against you, now you don't care anymore because you have the Tera Fairy option. Alright, so let's take a look and let's see how much Tera Fairy Miraidon here. Look at third place here from Keisuke. Looks like a very standard, very normal Miraidon team. With Chiyu, the Ferrigraph here, the Iron Hands. But look at this Tera Fairy Dazzling Gleam. So there's the tech there. Very standard Ferrigraph set. This one is Terra Poison Iron Hands. And, that's probably their adaptation to this, right? Oh, I don't want to get blasted by Dazzling Gleam. So I'm going to go Terra Poison here, and I'm going to resist that. But also, this is probably also for Fluttermane stuff, just being able to resist that. So that's cool. I guess it works. Tell me why Fire is not better, because now you don't get burned, and you still resist the fairy stuff. So, I'm not so sure. But, it's still a decent option into this. This is Choice Banned Urshifu Rapid Strike. So this is going to hurt. Especially under Rain Dance conditions, and of course the Terragon Chiyu stuff. That's also pretty standard. So that's cool. How about 4th place and 5th place here? So look at this, 3 Miraidon teams in the top 5. All right, Frederick. Okay, did I say Frederick? Yeah, I said Frederick. Okay, here we go. Another one. Tera Fairy Choice Specs. Okay, Ferrigraph, Iron Hands. Now you have Screens Miraidon. Here's Entei, by the way. I think Entei or Chiyu are very interchangeable depending on how you want to play. But Entei's so good here. And again, Terra Normal, you're going to whiff the Ash Barrage and then at the same time, you're doing so much damage with Sacred Fire and Flare Blitz. Even stopping Tantrum, it's going to be good against other Miraidons, so that's nice. I like that. That's good against other fire types that you can't quite hit with these moves or hit them effectively. Yeah, unless they just die to extreme speed. But again, another good, solid tech choice to have here. But, as we go down here, how about this one? Another Tera Fairy Miraidon. So here we go. All the rage, Tera Fairy Miraidon. You gotta have it, folks. Okay, this is the adaptation at this point in July. I'm gonna go down and see how about this one from Oppo. Okay, there we go. There's the electric Tera Miraidon. But how about Cobra Cloak here? I guess he doesn't like Snarl, so that's not nice. So Oppo, I don't know about that one, but actually it's a great item. I'm just kidding. How about this one here? So it looks like I see a lot of discharge shenanigans. Tera Electric, okay, but again, did not craft Toxicity. So again, that just makes you know, maybe there might be some adaptations moving forward. And I think there's a couple more in here. Yeah, how about this one? Okay, here's your Tera. How about Assault Vest Miraidon instead of the spec set? All right, Tera Fairy there. Aaron Trailer. Okay, this one again. There it is. Toy Specs Tera Fairy. Okay, I can go on, but I feel like everything. There's one more team here. Is this Tera Fairy? No, okay, this one's electric. But let's see how much more Tera Fairy surges amongst the Miraidon teams. I wanted to spotlight CSR here, and just because it's so flexible in how you want to play it, and we saw a lot of different sets within the tournament. Okay, and it's all dependent on the item and whether or not you want to set a move with it, right? So let's look at this. So let's look at the highest place one here, right? 6th place from Mario. Look at this. All right, so this is Citrus Berry, Nasty Plot, Calyrex, and it makes sense. Double Fake Out, Redirector. You can set this up easily, so I like this. This probably is a very bulky set here, considering the Citrus Berry. How about Terra Normal? So that's good into the mirror matchup, right? So they get to whiff their own Astro Barrage against you, so there's a nice little advantage there. Side Shock, he's gonna hit hard against a lot of different things, especially against Amoonguss, right? So I do like that. That's great against other fighting types in general, which are needed against Terapagos stuff. So a lot of these CSR teams, they're gonna be carrying fighting types, which is good against you if you Terra Normal, but now if you have Side Shock, that's also bad for them at the same time. So yeah, that's one set there. And then as we move forward, how about 10th and 11th place here? So this one is Covert Cloak with Calm Mind. Okay, I like this a lot. And there's the Tera Fairy Draining Kiss stuff. You have Clefairy here. So the Calyrex stuff is still solid. And sometimes you'll have both Mienshao and Urshifu. Other times you'll just have the Mienshao here or the Urshifu. I think, I don't know if you need two, but I understand that you need to have both, either one depending on the matchup itself. But how about Ogerpon Hardflame? Again, along with Rillaboom here, just doing a ton of damage here with double Grassy Glide. And then Ivy Cudgel obviously is going to hurt a lot. And then the Clefairy just lets you set up very easily in terms of what you want to do with your CSR. Just set up Calm Minds and whatnot. And we'll talk about this set here from the Urshifu a little bit in the later timestamp of the video. But as we move on, how about this? How about Spooky Plate Calyrex-Shadow Rider? Okay, this is, I would assume this is the same with the spell tech stuff, but again, Draining Kiss, Nasty Plot. Okay, so again, we're seeing lots of sets here, but double Fake Out stuff with the Urshifu. Here's your speed control on a Tornadus, no Clefairy here. Here's Raging Bolt, and then as we move down to this one, it looks like it's more or less the same idea. But how about Life Orb? So we've seen all different sets of work. We've seen Life Orb, we've seen Spooky Plate. Okay, we've seen Covert Cloak. Just again, Life Orb, Nasty Plot also at the same time is just going to do so much damage. We've seen Citrus Berry. We've seen 4 sets so far. Let's go down here at 17th place. Are we going to see another one? All right, that's one. I think that one's just the same one. There's another spooky. Oh, no, actually, look at this. How about this? Expanding Force Calyrex, because there's an Indeedee here. Double Terrain, Indeedee and Rillaboom here. So, you can go for the Expanding Force with the Indeedee Terrain. And then at the same time, you have Calm Mind set up, which is great with Rillaboom because, again, you're going to soak up some damage, which you can recover, with Grassy Terrain. So that's pretty good for you, right? And Rillaboom, Ogerpon, Wellspring. We haven't really seen too much Wellspring these days here. But, again, another Calyrex set. So you want to use Expanding Force, you got to have Indeedee. How about this one from Flavio? There's the spell tag Psychic Nasty Plot. So not Psy-Shock, but Psychic. Okay? And then we're getting closer. But look at this. Specs Calyrex. Okay? Another different CSR set. You have the Indeedee here. So you're going to have Expanding Force. Okay? You have the Chi here. That's going to make you do more damage. And again, more fighting types. Look, Mienshao, no Urshifu, but you have the Annihilate. So you have that going for you. But again, look at this. Psy-Shock, Expanding Force, Pollen Puff. Okay, the tech, we've seen this one before, but again, it just goes to show you the Calyrex sets are always going to be very much in variance depending on how you want to use this. Here's the Calm Mind, Draining Kiss stuff with Covert Cloak. How about Tolar Web here? What did you use? Calm Mind, Life Orb, same thing here with Protect. So, you know, just all depends, but you can see a lot of the pieces, right? You can see you must have like a Speed Control Mon. You can either have Indeedee or Tornadus. You gotta have a fighting type that either involves Mienshao, Urshifu, and maybe I guess the Annihilate can fit that description at the same time. Rillaboom is a must against Miraidon stuff. You've got the core, all right? You've got the pieces. Now, how do you want to run the Calyrex? You know, do you want Calm Mind? You want Nasty Plot? Do you want Life Orb Regression? You want Covert Cloak to stop getting snarled? All depends on you, right? So nice to see CSR still being so strong. And, you know, don't be surprised if this thing wins the World Championships, right? Just because #1 usage rate, right? But, you know, what kind of CSR sets do you guys like? Let's see. Let me know. I want to look at Robbie's team here because obviously, you know, of the teams, I think this one stands out the most just because not just the fact that we're using Koraidon, but look at the pieces around it, right? We've got Porygon too. We've got Venusaur. Let's take a look here. So, you know, Venusaur here with the Covert Cloak, going for the Sleep Powder stuff. Obviously, we know what Chlorophyll does with the sun. You get the double the speed, you get to outspeed the entire format, you get to click the Sleep Powder, and things take a nap for 3 turns, and you win the game just like that, right? But you have other good moves, right? You've got Sludge Bomb, you've got Grass Knot, which are both very, very good moves. Fast Sludge Bombs and fast Grass Knots are also quite nice. Because again, Sludge Bomb actually gives you a pin with Collision Course, right? Because, you know, if you're clicking a fighting move, that's not going to be good into, per se, let's, you know, a fairy type, obviously, right? Because they're going to resist it. But then you add Sludge Bomb to that. So if they stay fairy or if they are fairy, now they're weak to the poison move, right? So nice little pin there with Collision Course, I would say. Chi, you know, no surprise on a Sun team, you know, just doing a ton of damage with it. And then Porygon, how about this Porygon? You know, a little bit forgotten in the meta, right? It's a Trick Room setter, a bulky one that is a normal type, so that gives you a positive matchup into the Calyrex. You just need to use a move that you can hit against a ghost type, and we have it here. You know, actually a couple moves. We have Terra Blast, Terra Ground, which is great into, you know, Miraidon stuff, or even Raging Bolt. Then you have the Ice Beam coverage, you know, which is also good against other dragons, other grass types in general. But, you know, P2 along with Ursaluna. So you got your Trick Room setter, you've got a Trick Room sweeper with the physical Ursaluna with substitute, might I add. So that's going to be cool against, you know, Intimidate Cyclone. Remember when Zacian ran substitute back in Sword and Shield? That was the thing, right? So this is a pretty interesting team. I like this. And again, it's the team that stands out the most of the 16. So I like this a lot. And of course, Raging Bolt here. You know, no surprise. It's a Photosynthesis Mon. You know, you just almost wish there was a Flutter Mania, but you don't need it, right? You've got Porygon, you've got Ursaluna, you've got options. These are going to be good against Miraidon, right? Because you have Terra Ground here, you have an actual ground type, you've got a normal type too against the Calyrex-Shadow Rider, so that's nice. Then if you set up a substitute, you know, then it just becomes relatively hard to break. So I like this a lot. This is a pretty cool team, so shout out to Robbie for taking it as far as he did. Okay, but other than that, I do want to end with something like this. I guess I want to look at what might be my favorite team from all of this. About at 21st place here from Choi Yin Feng. He's got an Orthworm here, and if you look at this team, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, we already know what Miraidon can do. We know what Ferrograph can do, and even the regular Ursaluna. But what's interesting is the Orthworm here on this type of team. So look at this. You've got Ursaluna going for Earthquake, right? And you can use that paired next to your Orthworm, which of course will not only heal it But it'll just damage the other opponent as well. And then at the same time, you've got Iron Defense, Body Press, Orthworm, just doing very, very well here. Just setting it up and then just clicking Body Press into something like Terapagos. It can't break it, which is kind of funny. And then at the same time, you know, you can just create a free sub for one of these guys. And look at this, Manual Electric Terrain Iron Bundle. That's kind of funny too. Okay, so then that being said, then, you know, again, Discharge next to, you know, the Ursaluna. Doesn't care because you're a ground type. The Iron Bundle as well. Even your Iron Hands doesn't care because you are an electric type too. So you got to consider all of that. Interesting, this is Tera Fire instead of you know, no Terra Ground option here. But I just like the fact that there's an Orthworm over here. You know, just teched well with the Ursaluna Trick Room mode, right? So look at this. Paragraph, Ursaluna, Iron Hands, and an Orthworm. You've got your Trick Room options, and then, of course, Miraidon comes in and clean things up. Or you can go to fast mode here with the Iron Bundle, Icy Wind. So that can help you in itself. So I like this team a lot. I think it's kind of cool. But again, another kind of squad where like a niche Pokemon that normally doesn't see play can do well if you can patch up a certain matchup and then has good synergy with the other pieces on the rest of the team. So I like that. But that's going to do it for now, folks. So, you know, just all in all, some of these minor adjustments to what are otherwise standard teams, like, for example, the Tera Fairy on a Miraidon now is a nice adjustment. You're going to see a lot more of that moving forward, but I did want to cover at least this one, this tournament from VictoryRoad, because, again, it's a recent big tour. Again, almost 300 members, and I think it's worth looking at because now, if you wanted to start prepping now, which, you know, you're a little late to the game because other people have been doing it already. But if you want to prep now, this would be a good reference point. All right. But that's going to do it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. So, have a good one.